Good evening, YouTube. Mochismo Eugene with another video. This video is going to be just titled Workplace Narcissism, and just want to talk for a few minutes to make you guys aware of if you're coming out of, say, a narcissistic, abusive relationship, and you're in a place where you're somewhat healing, or let's say, even if you're healed to a strong degree, or even if you're just coming out of it. So we'll go from minimum to medium to leaps and bounds in your healing process. This will apply to each one of those categories, and I'm just going to speak from a perspective of that, because if you come out of a relationship that's narcissistic and abusive to you, you have a lot of work on your hands to begin with from that point of view, and let alone going through other narcissistic, abusive endeavors or relationships. So in the workplace, what you'll tend to find is, after you've come out of the narcissistic abusive relationship, say intimate relationship, and it doesn't always have to be boyfriend, girlfriend when they speak intimate relationship, but for this video, we're going to say you're coming out of the romantic intimate relationship, where is it boyfriend, girlfriend, or even say a family unit where there was a narcissistic parent. Let's just stick with those categories there. You'll pretty much become laxed because you'll think that you know what narcissistic or a narcissist look like. You'll know all the signs and the cues and the red flags of what a narcissist look like, if you're healing appropriately. And when I say appropriately, I use that with caution, because appropriately is, to me, is just listening and learning through via YouTube, reading, and actually implementing some of these things that you hear and read. Really implementing, not just trying to detect them visually and socially, but implementing the healing parts of your part, where you have to look deep within yourself, introspect, do the work, inner work, shadow work, some of us call it, to find the core of what you are and who you are as an individual, because you've lost a lot of your individuality because you become so codependent on the narcissist narrative that they put in your head after all of the months, years, and whatnot. So when you go into a workplace, let's say you go to your job or you get a job, and you, the initial stage, you have a love bombing phase of a job too. You'll get there, you'll be greeted with seemingly open arms from either people who have already been employed there, or people who you are hired with, along with new hires. And you'll have a situation that arises, and it very well can and could be a narcissist coworker, boss, or any one of those two things, or those two things all together. And you will probably determine sooner rather than later where there's narcissistic disorder. But the thing I'm trying to illustrate to you right now is, when you encounter that, it doesn't stop right there because you can identify it. Because what happens is, you will, I want to say, for lack of a better word, you will have become so laxed in your knowledge of what narcissists look like, and the cues and some of the behavior patterns. And the big mistake that you may often make in this capacity, workplace again, when you seek resolve or there's resolve to be had, you will all automatically assume or at least be under the belief that this over here being the narcissistic problem or the narcissist, and this over here is the resolve. So it would seem, because there's a certain dialogue that is played out in these situations oftentimes. You'll begin to speak your truth. Again, you've already identified the narcissist. What I'm trying to say is the resolve that you believe or you perceive that you're going to get or you believe that you will receive, a lot of times it'll be a deception as well, because you'll find a lot of times you'll get in that situation and where the resolve should be, it will be gaslit. It will be gaslighting. There will be spinning the narrative. So much so, you can be the one with the complaint. You can be the one that's being assaulted or attacked, not physically in many cases, but verbally. Having your character sabotaged or assassinated, and you would think you're talking to the healthier mind, and all of a sudden it'll sneak up on you, these things I'm talking about, the manipulation, the spinning the narrative. And once you're in that typhoon or that whirlwind, something will kick in automatically, and it'll tell you you're fighting a losing battle. Cease and desist. This is what I really want you to understand, what I'm about to say. At this point, you need to shut it down verbally. Don't contest or try to speak your piece, because guess what? In this dynamic, the narcissist, the one in particular that you may have the qualm with, they often will be silent, especially when there's a reprimanding. If you're being called into a group setting and there's a reprimand or they're trying to sort it out, the narcissist will be quiet often. Well, one of the narcissists. And you'll find yourself in a vacuum of evil entities. And what you do at this point, you shut it down, and what you do, you begin to listen to the ones who are speaking. A somber stare, no emotions. Because what's been done to you, you've been duped in believing you had a resolve. But you've gotten your wits about yourself, and you got your bearings about yourself. You're off balance a little bit. So what you do in that moment, you go back to what you have learned. You go back to what you know. Because what you've seen, you can't unsee it. What you've learned, you can't unlearn it. What you've experienced, you can't unexperience it. You can re-experience it. And we do often re-experience it on a constant, in many cases, some of us here and there. But however you may re-experience it, you shut it down. The sooner you shut it down, you don't give that entity any more momentum than it has already gotten. It's gonna try to get momentum to push its way in. You may even know how to bob and weave and avoid narcissists now that you know what they are and the cues and the behavior patterns. But I'm going to tell you something. If you're a TI, targeted individual, that's what you may hear on YouTube, that's TIs. And we're not talking about the rapper. That's not saying much in that case either, but that's a whole nother story. Um, Targeted individual, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. That just means the energy that you possess from even when you were probably a little kid. Some say black sheep. You were ostracized. You was always the one that stuck out. Always got the brunt of the of all the misfortune. But staying on topic, at that point you stare. You stare with a somber stare, almost like you're being subordinate. You have to almost appear like you're being submissive, but you're not. You're really being subordinate. You're allowing them to speak their falsehood, their word salad, their spinning of the narrative, and you're supposed to keenly observe and take a mental note and listen keenly to what is being said. And what you do is they're normally going to ask you a question with some intense aggression. It's almost like you're the victim, but you're going to be vilified. And so what you do in that case, you have a somber stare, no emotion. Remember, no emotion. You just kind of say, when you hear something that they ask you, this is what you do. You'll politely say, but sternly, is that the question you're asking me, or are you going to answer that question for me? Are you going to accept my answer? Will you accept my answer? And if they don't give you yes or no or nothing, and they kind of just like stall in giving your response, this is how you agitate the opposition. Because what they've sought to do is, this is something I used to say a lot. You really truly have some power when someone seeks to make you mad and they end up getting mad at you because they couldn't make you mad. That is true power. To make someone mad who tries to make you mad but end up getting mad because they couldn't make you mad. I mean, this is a learning curve. It's easier said than done. But that is the whole objective, or that's the whole subject matter of this video. I just wanted you guys to know, workplace narcissists, it can be the worst, because you got to understand, you may go no contact, but every day you have to deal with those entities that are obviously intentionally trying to attack you in many ways. They'll try to use third parties to try to temperature check you, heat check you. They'll come around with a real lame, what's up, how you doing? Because if you're not healing appropriately, you're gonna vent to someone that you probably shouldn't. And this is just a rule of thumb. Don't ever tell people in your workplace, whether you suspect narcissists there or not, which most often you do have them. That's just a given. You don't divulge private matters, personal matters. You don't divulge your financial intentions, whether you're planning on buying a car, a house, land, investments, anything remotely dealing with these issues, or even your personal life where it regards your children, your romantic life. Just essentially, you got to be on monk mode. Monk mode. You don't let people know. I don't care how much they start sharing about their life. You almost have to act as though like the narcissists act. You just observe and you sponge, but you're not trying to mirror their personality. That's the difference in empaths and chosen ones. We're awake, never to be asleep again, and we observe this shit show. and it's amusing, it's disturbing, it's heart wrenching, and it's just pathetic. So even after you're healed out of a relationship of sorts, intimate, you still have a lifelong battle ahead of you. But cheer up, be of good cheer, because these are things that I believe God allowed us to go through with regard of the intimate relationship or even the family abuse, because he has a bigger plan for you. He has a plan for you to be the ones that wins and finishes the race. Because when you run the race without complaining, that is who God really appreciates, because you're doing it because you know the race is not giving to the fastest runner. Well, in the Matrix, it is, but it's given to the person that endures to the end. With that, bless.